Welcome back. In today's video and in the next video, the topic which I'm going to cover is constraint in context to relational database management system. So what do we mean by constraint? Constraint are basically different type of rules which are implemented on the attribute of an entity. Well, the purpose of these constraints are just to ensure the stability that the data which will be inserted by the user maintain all around the project. So in this particular video and in the next video, I will be showing you the different form of constraints that are there in a relational database management system. So let's get started. Over here I have my SQL command prompt, and over here I have sorted down my queries which I will be showing. So the first constraint that I'm going to show is domain integrity constraint. The domain integrity constraint are very commonly used when you are going to set a kind of range in context to an attribute. Well, let me show you what I mean over here. So I have got a table over here. Let me copy this and let me paste it over here, and thereafter I'll explain. Look over here what I'm doing. I'm creating a table called item and following are the attributes. That is item code, which is of type varchar. It is going to be not null. The next attribute is item name, that is varchar2, and then I have got an attribute called price. And look over there, over here what I've written, a constraint. I'm applying a domain integrity constraint, and I've given a name to this particular constraint called check_item. And the kind of constraint which I'm applying is a check constraint. So what the check constraint is basically going to do, for the given attribute price, you have set up a range. Well, I have set up a range, that is the price should be greater than 10 rupees and it should be less than 100 rupees. So the value of valid data will be something which price falls within this particular range. Okay, so let me create the table, and as I hit the enter, the table is supposed to be created. Let's wait for a while. Yes, the table got created successfully. Now look over here, I have got one tuple and I want to insert this particular tuple. So let me copy this one, and look over here, an issue will take place. What is the issue? Since I have said that the item code, well, there are three attributes are there. That's the reason I'm not writing the attribute names directly. I'm putting the value. So the first attribute is item code. Since I've specified that it should be not null, but I have given null over here, hence this is violating my constraint which I have mentioned over here. So that is also not accepted, even though my check constraint is valid. Okay, my price is within this particular range, but since this is getting violated, so naturally you will find over here an issue taking place. Cannot insert a null because you have specified that the attribute should be not null. So over here it's not a valid one. Okay, now let's copy the second tuple and let me see what happened this time. Over here I have given a value, proper value, which is of type varchar, string type, and but the range is above the specified range which I have set over here. So in that case, this is also violating the constraint. See, it's clearly mentioning that you are violating the constraint. So this is the way you are ensuring that the data that has been inserted by the user for a given entity should follow the specification which you are setting. But suppose if my tuple is having a value 80, and since that is in the range which I have specified over here, so naturally this particular inclusion is successful, as you can see over here. So this is a very simple example of domain integrity constraint which you can refer to when you are sitting for an exam or an interview. If you come across a question like give an example of domain integrity constraint, you can share this particular example. Okay, so this is one of the type of integrity constraint. The next integrity constraint which we will see now is the entity integrity constraint. It is also going to work on the same table. So what I will do is I will drop this particular table first. So let me fire this one. The table will be dropped, and please refer to my last video where I have talked about the truncate and drop. Those things I have already dealt with that, these things. So let me clear the screen over here. Yes, now I'm talking about the unique, what the unique feature is going to refer. So let me copy this schema once again, and thereafter I will explain the whole thing. Look over here, I'm still working with the table item, and over here I've gone for the attribute item code varchar, and over here item name is varchar2, not null, as I've said previously. Also price, and I've given a constraint over here like what I was giving previously, but over here I applied another constraint. So that means in this particular entity I'm applying two constraints. The previous one was there was only one constraint, but now along with domain constraint, entity integrity constraint in the form of unique constraint I have applied. And what unique constraint I have applied? That is the item code. That means you have to give a unique data for this particular attribute. No two tuple is going to have the same record. Okay, that's what I meant by unique constraint over here. So the table got created successfully. So let me fire this one, this particular attribute, and say, look over here, I have registered the floating point. So this is a floating point where after 2 there will be 2 place floating value. Yes, the recording is successfully. But if I try to insert one more record, and which also is valid in context to the range less than 1500, but the problem that will take place is the item code, because already I have specified that the item code should, whenever the item code is going to have a data, the data should be unique. But over here you can see already I1 has been registered, and you are trying to insert this another item with the same item code, which is actually violation of what you have said. And look over here, unique constraint violated. So that means on context to entity integrity constant, you are ensuring that a particular attribute need to be unique. Okay, so that you have to ensure. Now what if my this particular value, this particular stuff is having a null? Look over here, I'm going for null, because in the last example, if you remember, I gave the attribute not null, but over here I did not provide any not null. So what will happen in this case? Look over here, the null is accepted, the null value is accepted. That means if you're not specifying null, and if you're just specifying unique constant, unique is going to accept null. But the problem that will come is, if whenever you are supplying a data, that data has to be unique. That means you can insert a null data, that's not a problem, but whenever you're inserting any data, it has to ensure that the data which you are inserting, that should be special one, that should not be a redundant value. Look over here, in this case it is accepting the null entry. So if I go for select star from item, so you will find over here couple of tuples are there which has got no data at all. So it has got a null data over here. So this is a valid one, there is no problem with that one. But in context to a data that is there, that should not be redundant, that you have to ensure. So whenever you are going for unique constraint will accept a null value, but unique constraint will not accept any redundant data. That is something which you need to take care about. So that what in context to unique of entity integrity constraint. In the same way, we can also go for primary key, because unique is accepting null. So in order to restrict the null concept, another unique feature that will come in picture, that is called primary key. So we will talk about the primary key. This particular segment of code I will run in my next video. So I wanted to keep the thing very clear, very simple, so that you can differentiate between what is a domain integrity constraint and what is an entity integrity constraint. It can be implemented in 2 ways. Firstly, I showed you the unique feature, and the second feature which I will be showing is the primary key. And in the next video I will be talking more about this. Along with that, the referential integrity constraint will also be implemented over there only. Okay, thank you very much.